One of the coolest jobs I ever had was working for AWS back in 2008. At that time, AWS was really small compared to what it is now. There were a handful of services, and they didn't really stack up to enterprise solutions like they existed at the time. But nonetheless, AWS grew from that small starting point all the way to what it is now, this massive cloud computing giant, right? So working on these agents now, building LangChain and LangGraph agents that can automate and do work in the cloud autonomously it's really cool to see, and I love working on it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to get an AWS API MCP server, which is an acronym mouthful. I'm going to show you how to get that running, right? And it's going to be the baseline for you. You'll see how to kind of connect all the things together, and then if you want to, you can go off, deploy your own. If you have any ideas about how to automate certain things, you can get it done using this as your foundation. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, great. So what we want to do is open the dashboard and then go over to the Projects tab and then open up the right project. And then we will wait for this to load, click Start Lab. And if you're not familiar with SkillMix, this will go out, create an Amazon account, and then boot up some infrastructure. It's starting at the very least an EC2 instance, and some labs have more than that, but this one I think is just the EC2 instance, and it's getting it ready for our work. Okay, so if you see this load, and then you may see some retries here in the terminal, that's because the server has started, but the Docker instance on the server needs to complete its boot up. And you can see here that our space is ready. And then we can add terminals if you need to, etc. So the cool thing about this environment is that our lesson is right here. And so I do recommend that you read through this. This project is going to show you how to run an agent on EC2 that uses the AWS MCP servers. There is a repo out here that you can go learn from, and this repo is quite extensive. It shows how the AWS MCP servers work, and it has a long list of them actually. So let's just take a look at, I think this will do it. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different servers available. We're using this one, the AWS API MCP server. This one is basically a interface for the AWS CLI, so you can run, this gives the agent the ability to run essentially any AWS CLI command. But there's a bunch of other servers out here. So if you go look, if you're a Terraform user, they've got one for that. This gives, I think, documentation and commands as well. So this is a great resource. You should take a look at it. In this project, we are just using the API version. And so just a few things. So why MCP? Obviously, we all know that the LLMs can hallucinate, and we don't want that when you're building agents. So the MCP servers can get the correct knowledge to the agent, very specific knowledge that's up to date. This improves with overall accuracy, obviously, if it has up-to-date knowledge, if it knows the commands, it doesn't have to try to make them up, so we get better accuracy. We can also give it very specific tool commands. Since it knows exactly what the commands are, then the agent will have more consistency in executing those commands. And it's a standard interface, so instead of having every developer go off and create their own, we just have a standard protocol here that lets us do it more consistently. let's just jump right into it. So our goal here, we're going to use Claude to do the reasoning. We are going to run, we're going to have a version of the server running locally, and then we can use the agent to execute commands. So if you don't already have your Claude key, you can go, or Claude API key, you can go get it here. Or first you create an account, and then you can get the keys here. So just a quick note on the API key, you do want to keep it safe. The best practice really is to create a key just for a lab and then delete it when it's done. That way you know that the key is not going to be leaked anywhere. And then you are responsible for all these costs. They shouldn't be a lot. They should be pennies to complete this lab, if that. But you are responsible for it, so please do mind. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm just going to copy this command here. We're going to first create a virtual environment. And then we're going to activate it. Okay, then we're going to install some packages. And that's the LangGraph, LangChain, the Anthropic package, so we can use that LLM, the MCP server, so this is actually from the AWS repo. We'll get the CLI and then a package called UV, which is a requirement for running the MCP server. And we do need to set our key, so you can copy this. Let's export it. Okay. So we now have the key exported. And then we can configure the CLI. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to create keys.txt. And then we'll have this here. This popped up because this is our virtual environment, so just be aware of that. So what we need are the access key and the secret key, and we just go to the Lab Manager tab, and we can grab both of these values. Save them in our key file. These are all unique each time the lab is generated, so you can't use my keys. All right, so back to the lesson. We have the keys. Now we run AWS configure. So pop down to the terminal, run AWS configure, and we grab the access key. We grab the secret key. Let's use US West 2. This is important, so please put in US West 2, and then output can be default. All right. So we have our CLI set up. Let's create the file, the Python file. So AWS MCP agent.py, and then we can open that. And we're just going to copy this script over. Okay. So if you just walk through this script, we have one function called create the agent. And what this does is it uses a package from the LangChain library that creates the model. So we pass in the model name. And we're just going to use 3.7, the latest version of it. So we're referencing the model, we're referencing temperature, and we're referencing our key. Then we create the MCP client instance. So this actually comes from the AWS repo. So if you want to know how to configure this, you can go over to the documentation here, and they have it somewhere. Oh, I think I know where it is. You have to actually open up the sorry for all the scrolling. You open up the actual version that we're using, and then it has, if you're using Python and using different utilities, it shows you how to configure this JSON connection. So you can see, between Mac and Windows, there are a few differences it looks like, but not many. So anyways, you get the configuration string from there. And then We have some very specific, ways to interact with these clients. So we get the tools, and this essentially is, a tool. It's an MCP tool for this program. So we have our tools that we get. We create an instance of the memory saver. So this is a LangChain specific tool or utility that lets us have memory throughout the agent lifecycle. And then we create our React agent. And this is a really simple way that LangGraph makes it easy to create a React agent. We pass in the model we created, we pass in the tools, and we have this prompt. So we say, you are an AWS operations assistant, and you can do these things, right? You can answer these kinds of questions. So that's how we define the agent, and then we create an interactive session. And this is really just some code, some boilerplate code needed for LangGraph to work. You can read through it, and then when you run the file, it runs this. So we're basically running in interactive mode. So let's go ahead and just run this. And I've noticed, yeah, it will go off and install a bunch of additional packages, and this can take a minute. So it's actually impressive how much space these packages take. It's in the several gigabyte range, so just a heads up there. Luckily, this EC2 instance has quite a bit of space, so we have 14 gig available here. And while we're waiting for that, just a side note here, you can always go to this tab and say, if you wanted to have the code broken down for you. So yeah, in the lesson tab, we have the code, and then we show you how to run it. But here, if you wanted to, you could just say, can you give me a step-by-step breakdown of the code? And you'll get a step-by-step breakdown. So this is actually a really cool feature. If you want, you can also, use, like, this whole lesson is in the context of this agent. So if you wanted to say create a different version of this, you'd be able to kind of remix the code here if you wanted to. So just a heads up on that. You can read through this if you want to. Okay, now our agent is running, so we can just type in commands now, and let's just get the running instances. And I've noticed that this does sometimes require additional packages on a per command basis, so let's see if it's needed. It might not be. So a couple points here. This agent, right? This agent is running under these keys, and these keys have an IAM policy attached to them. Excuse me. So this agent doesn't have like all permissions in the AWS account, right? And right now, these keys only have access to EC2 and a few other things. So while you can ask a lot more questions and you can even perform actions, for these keys, we're pretty limited right now, just based on this cloud environment. So, but nonetheless, you can see that it answered the query. So it said, I found one EC2 instance that's in your account. Here are the details, and it's part of a CloudFormation stack. And these are all, this instance is basically the instance that we're connected to right now. It's part of the SkillMix lab environment. So there you go. That's how you do it. You can take this code and try it on your own account. You can extend it. You can give it certain powers if you want to. If you want to have it to be able to change things, you can. It can launch instances. It can change configuration details. Basically anything that the AWS CLI is capable of. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want to learn more about SkillMix, we have lots of projects, and we have a whole comprehensive lab available, or a comprehensive course. So if you really want to learn how to use LangChain and LangGraph, you can take our course here. So appreciate your time and have a great day.